Good afternoon. Welcome to the work session for June 3rd, 2026. Quorum is present. Well, school board members, here we are at the end of the school year. You look good.
Thank you.
You
Don't look
good.
like what we've been through.
Right, exactly. Well, we have a packed agenda today, so I'm not going to hold up too much time. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Rose.
We have to
Call the
Oh, I'm sorry.
Basine,
Here.
DeCalagero,
Here.
Martin,
Oh, present.
Paulson,
Present.
Slaughter,
Present.
Thomas, and Buffalo.
Here. Now I'll hand it
Okay, with Ms. Buffalo and the rest of the board as anxious as they are, we will start. Ms. McGarity will kick us off as we discuss Board Goal 2 and Intermeasures 2.1.
With her new haircut. I
At
like
least
it.
someone notices. Yep.
Did I get somebody in trouble?
Somebody that I meet with probably daily
Uh-oh.
didn't know. That's okay.
I'd like to point out that my husband never notices, so.
My husband noticed, which is not normal, but yeah. So, no.
Yeah, it's a pretty.
It's very, because we were just talking about it over here, so that's why it's fun.
Like that, yeah. It's a considerable
But thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so we are going to talk about 2.1. Let me get that pulled up here. I'm going to pull us down to the graphs, or the chart, sorry. I'm up here, the chart, as we talk through. All right, so good afternoon, Chair Moore Buffalo, Vice Chair DeCalagero, Superintendent Rose, colleagues, and community members. I'm here today to review the spring interim measure for 2.1, which monitors the Virginia Language and Literacy Screener System, most often referred to as VALS. The spring outcomes for first and second grade is what we're going to go through. As a quick reminder, VALS reports on early literacy of students in either a low, moderate, or high-risk performance band. In interim measure 2.1 that we're talking about today, the focus is on reducing the percentage of the high-risk performance band. The key takeaways from the data are that first, both first and second grade students increased the percentage of students in the high-risk performance band from the winter administration to spring. For first grade, the percentage went from 30.7 to 33.9%, and for second grade, it went from 28% to 30.5%. However, though, when we compare the same point to last year, there are more students in the low-risk band, which is good because that means they're moving up, and less in the high-risk band at the same time of year for both grade levels. Second, even though there was an increase of high-risk students in second grade, we remain below the spring target, meaning we met our target for second grade. Third, the analysis indicates many students are performing in the upper end of the high-risk band rather than the most intensive range. This suggests students continue to need supports, but they are demonstrating literacy growth. Additionally, VALS expectations throughout the year, meaning some students showed growth but did not grow at a rate that is sufficient enough to keep up with the pace of the spring performance expectations. In response to the data, the English office will continue with structured and focused professional training through the summer and beyond about using and monitoring evidence based on instructional practices and interventions in early literacy instruction, all under the guidelines of the Virginia Literacy Act, or what we may hear of as the VLA. Additionally, our analysis does not indicate that any specific literacy resource, intervention, or strategy is ineffective. Year-over-year growth in early literacy outcomes and reductions in the lowest range of the high-risk band suggest that current supports are contributing to student progress. Student groups generally demonstrate the same overall pattern as the division as a whole. However, achievement gaps remain and will continue to be the focus of our work. In closing, this data will continue to be analyzed by the English office, Title I staff, and school leaders to better understand instructional strengths and needs in early literacy. Thank you, and I'm now ready to take any questions.
School board members, you've heard the report. Are there any questions? Seeing none? Oh,
Sorry, I was
Ms.
just
Basine.
giving time for others to chime in. So first, thank you for the thorough explanation through the questions that I submitted. I don't have as many as a result of that, but I do have some follow-up questions, starting with what you just described in terms of strategies and resources that are supporting our students. And if I heard you correctly, you feel like that is what our current resources and strategies are leading to that progress that's being made. Is there anything that you feel could be enhanced to accelerate the progress, like of those that we do have in place that's working well, that we can accelerate to?
Well, and I think, and just from talking to Ms. Nash, she was not able to be here this afternoon, but who's our elementary senior coordinator for literacy, she's mentioned, being able to fill, there's some where there's been some spots for the early literacy tutors. So there's some vacancies there and those things. So really being able to fill those spots to keep moving that forward in that way.
Okay, and are those spots that have been vacant for some time? Are these new vacancies or long existing vacancies?
These are rotational vacancies, because it's an hourly position, so it's not uncommon to have them. And also, just wanted to mention that with the consolidation plan, we're not decreasing the amount of tutors we have, so we're able to spread more. So as we go through, we'll have more resources for schools.
Okay, so, and then on that note, in the question about subgroups that are struggling more than others, as we've consistently seen, our English language learners and our students with disabilities. Can you talk about, how we might strategize targeting resources towards those particular subgroups?
I can answer that as well. So each year we change where the tutors, how many tutors each school gets, and we do that based off of our data. And we don't just look at like the student count, we look at the student count and the performance, and then we look at also demographics, and we look at, special education needs, EL needs, that might outweigh other areas. So they may get increased tutors even if they're a smaller school, with average performance versus a larger school that might not have those same needs in those areas. So we look at the data down to the demographic level to place those tutors every single year.
Those tutors specific to working with our ELL?
They work with all students who are not strong readers based off the vowels. There are early literacy tutors. However, if we have an EL student or a student with disabilities that has high needs there, we might add like an additional half tutor there, because they might need more resource to help with them as well. And also, Ms. Flores, actually yesterday just emailed me with, our placement of our ESL teachers as well, that changes every year based off of student need and access scores. And usually there's a balance there too. So there's additional resources based off the data.
I appreciate that, and I think I didn't articulate the part of my question that I wanted to, highlight. But are those tutors like specialized in providing, especially, are they, multilingual or certified in special education?
No, not necessarily. Some we may have been able to hire that are, but not necessarily. But we do professional development on the regular with them on the Scripps curriculum and on how you do tier 2, tier 3 interventions, so that they are specialized in that area. And they also become members of the school team, right? So usually every principal is able to hire their same tutors back year after year. So they develop relationships with the ESL teacher. They develop relationships with the special education teacher. So they know how to bring those resources in when needed. My pleasure. Nice haircut.
Ms. D.
We were
Calagero,
able to do that.
you have another question? Okay, Ms. D. Calagero.
I just want to follow up on something that you had said, and again, thank you for the report. You said that in our first grade cohort, even though their spring data put them at 33.9%, which was above our target, that more of those students were operating at the high end of the high-risk target?
Correct. So we're not seeing the kids, even though we had more kids who came down from the higher risk bands down to the high risk band. When I say higher, I mean the
Yeah,
low risk and moderate. I know it feels counterintuitive, but we're not seeing kids fall all the way down to the bottom of that lowest part of the high-risk band.
So like what percentage of students
So,
are in that area?
I'd have to get back to you on exact percentages, but no matter, the higher, we look at it to say what side's higher, right? And we call it upside down.
Right.
If your lowest part is higher than the top part of the high-risk band, and we're not seeing those upside downs for spring, where it is they're higher than each other, so. with
So
the piece.
did we see progress in the kids in the high-risk group, that they went from
We're seeing
being
some,
at the bottom of the high-risk band to
Yes.
moving up to the,
right, we're seeing reductions definitely at the bottom of that high-risk band. So some of them are moving up the wristband, and if there were the ones that fell into it, were not falling down to the bottom of it. They kind of coming from.
kind of on the
moderate-
cusp? And then
Yeah,
just-
so things are still, like those parentheses around that moderate group, kind of where that's fluctuating, but we're not seeing those big falls at the bottom of that band.
Basine?
Yeah, and piggybacking off of that, it just reminded me of a question around, that I've asked as we're doing progress monitoring. But if we're seeing those students who remain in the high risk and aren't moving, are we seeing a trend of, particular subgroups or particular schools where high-risk students are
When
not
we-
moving? Or are we seeing
A little bit, and when we say, because we've started, again, we're in second year of VALS, so it's really trying to kind of learn the behavior of this assessment, because each admin, there's an increased rigor of what kids need to be able to do. So it's always moving. But what we're seeing, so we've been kind of watching where we see those groups, it's going to be students with disabilities and EL. EL with the language piece, and they're getting more intensive supports, but they might be staying in there, but we're not seeing a lot of holding still at the very bottom of that group. So we'll see it within, it's just slower, much slower and incremental than the other students or other student groups.
Final question I have that I wanted to better explain is around, I asked a question around if we're looking at third grade, like our current third graders, because we've seen this trend of strong early literacy support and progress that our students are making. And then, in third grade, are we seeing what percentage of them are sustaining that level of
We have started looking.
proficiency, I guess, is what.
We've started looking into that to try and see, because Ms. Nash and I have even trying to define what it is that's happening at that point. On the side of VALS, we look at the different instructional indicators. So is it spelling? Is it decoding? Is it retelling? What are those pieces? Which is going to give us a clue to the next piece. And so as things are rolling in, we're in the phase of starting to work that direction.
Okay.
To kind of watch, we're trying to watch things over time.
Okay, so at this point,
At this point, I wouldn't be able to tell you what that is, but
all right, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Well, thank you, Ms. McGarity. Board members, we're going to move down to 2.02, Title I Plan Proposal for School Year 26-27. Ms. Cito, come on. Welcome.
Thank you. Perfect. Awesome. Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairwoman Moore Buffalo, Vice Chair DeCalagero, Superintendent Dr. Rose, school board members, and the community. Today, I will be providing a summary of the preliminary Title I application for school year 26-27. It is currently preliminary because the actual allocation is released in the fall. Currently, Norfolk Public Schools has the second largest Title I allocation in Virginia. A thank you to Michael Rogers, who is here with us today. He is the Title I budget specialist in the budget department, along with other departments and stakeholders that collaborated and supported the creation of the application and the Title I program. The purpose of the Title I Part A federal grant is to provide supplemental resources to schools in order to assist students in meeting academic standards. Title I funds are used to support early intervention, including our preschool 3-year-old program. Strategic intervention is also provided at all Title I schools to support students academically and behaviorally. Much of this is achieved through collaboration across all departments on the use of funds, internal and external partnerships, and through professional development for all staff. All schools are rank ordered by the community and the eligibility provision. Once the actual allocation is received in the fall, principals use their updated comprehensive school support plan to update their Title I spending plan. This plan details specific purchases that directly align to areas of improvement in academics, attendance, and behavior, and the measurable objectives on the Title I application. This is reviewed by the executive directors, school improvement senior coordinator, and early learning in Title I department for alignment and allowability. The review is thorough, and once that is completed and both plans are approved, principals use the Title I handbook site, which provides them with a timeline for spending and other guidance needed to support Title I evidence-based practices, compliance, and regulation that includes family and community engagement. The Early Learning and Title I Department provide a significant amount of professional development each month for Title I staff. Principal professional development sessions focus on Title I supplemental supports and preschool programming. Family engagement specialists participate in monthly sessions that include multiple departments, such as communications, English as a second language, and special education. All preschool staff participate in professional development delivered mostly by the early learning preschool staff in the early learning department. Instructional coaches receive direct support from curriculum and instruction. Behavior specialists receive professional development from the Department of Student Wellness. Also, any staff that work with McKinney-Vento identified students receive training from multiple departments. Title I teachers and teacher assistants receive training also through monthly professional development sessions in collaboration with curriculum and instruction, and with Title I with a focus on literacy and mathematics. Finally, a school-wide Title I presentation was created and provided to all schools to ensure all staff understand the purpose of Title I Part A and how to use their funds. This also allows staff to provide feedback. The Title I support and services is very collaborative and robust. To ensure the program is meeting the needs of our students and families, the Assessment, Research, and Accountability Department, along with school leadership development and the school improvement coordinator, work with early learning in Title I. Over the year, our subgroups are presented in division-level data presentations, and this data is monitored regularly. To ensure compliance to all federal and state guidelines, the Early Learning in Title I Department uses Title I Crate to gather and monitor all compliance documents that are required by the division and school level from the Virginia Department of Education. Our program hosts a division-wide family engagement committee, which meets quarterly in person and/or virtually. This committee has filled out surveys, engaged in feedback activities, completed jot tables, and so we ensure that all voices are heard in regards to Title I work that we're doing and to guide decision-making. Also, there is a preschool steering committee that meets at least 5 times throughout the year to support our preschool age programming. There is also facilitation of a citywide presentation, which occurred in March, with a public survey. Feedback received is used to make adjustments to the application as needed. The proposed Title I application recommends keeping all current Title I schools budgeted at full capacity. Therefore, the recommendation is 23 school-wide Title I schools for school year 26-27, which is a decrease from 25 because of the removal of Oceaneer and Norview Elementary due to consolidation. Being school-wide allows all students to receive access to supplemental supports. Norfolk Public Schools oversees equitable services because the bypass provision is no longer allowed in Virginia. Norfolk Public Schools has one of the largest equitable services programs in the state based upon the number of private schools that serve our Title I students within those zones. There is a tab on the Title I application that shows the process for allocating these funds. Title I Part A grant supports mostly school-level staffing, while there are some supplemental funds at the division level, and there's also discretionary funds at the school level where principals have the discretion on how to spend the funding. And also, we have our division-wide programs, such as our Robust Access to Books program. This slide displays the list of recommended schools for school year 26-27. The Virginia Department of Education shared with all divisions to use level funding for the 26-27 school year. Preliminary funding is $18,242,707.21. Title I funds are used in direct support of Title I schools to meet the needs of students, families, and the community. As this slide shows, 93% of the funds in this application are in direct support of schools through school-level allocations and initiatives such as academic interventionists, instructional coaches, family engagement, and support for students in transition, and now kindergarten teacher assistants. This slide includes the required funding for equitable services as shared in the previous slide. Furthermore, in the proposed Title I application, school-level budgets are maintained at level funding. Family engagement and indirect costs are also required set-asides. In collaboration with the Title I principals and executive directors of school leadership development, it is recommended that all Title I schools are allocated Title I kindergarten teacher assistants. Norfolk Public Schools is one of the few divisions that do not have Title I kindergarten assistants in their elementary schools. The consolidation provides the opportunity to add at least one Title I kindergarten teacher assistant at all Title I schools. The higher need schools will get more than one Title I kindergarten assistant based upon need. Furthermore, based upon feedback from our stakeholders and the increased efforts to support our students and families that qualify for McKinney-Vento, a reclassification for the Title I resource specialist is being recommended. This position is in direct support of schools and families and will oversee the Family Welcome and Wellness Center at Grandy Village. Next steps are a school board vote on the Title I application anticipated on June 17, 2026. Once the application is signed by the school board chair and the superintendent, it is sent to VDOE for approval no later than July 1 of 2026. Norfolk Public Schools continues to commit to serving our most at-risk population by ensuring all Title I schools remain at full funding, increasing support in early learning by expanding our 3-year-old program, adding Title I kindergarten teacher assistants, implementing a robust family and community engagement program, and providing outside-of-school resources to families such as our Family Welcome and Wellness Center, family engagement specialist staff, and external partnerships, to list many of the things that we're currently doing. MPS Early Learning and Title I Department also has just been asked to present at the Virginia Department of Education conference in the summertime because our monitoring of our program was so successful and the way that we are implementing the program. So that is very exciting. Thank you so much for your support, and at this time, I'm available for any questions.
School board members, you've heard the presentation. Are there any questions? Christine?
Thank you for the thorough presentation and for the responses to the questions that have been previously submitted. I just have a couple of follow-up questions related to them. So on slide 8, if we could go to that, where you have the Title I schools recommendations. So we have the removal of, obviously, Norview and Ocean Air Elementary, and no additions for this upcoming school year, right? Okay. And based on through the consolidation, we're not expecting with any shifts that, I mean, I see the schools that would be impacted, or as the receiving schools are already on here, but those resources that are currently at Norview Elementary and Ocean Air, would they be redistributed at the receiving schools?
So,
How does that work?
so every year with Title I, every single school is rank ordered again based upon community eligibility provision. This year, because these two schools are one being repurposed, one being closed, when we did that, they were not in the rank order, okay? Which allowed for the redistribution to be appropriate for the schools. So it allowed their funding that they would typically get to be reallocated within the rank order. So yes, they will be getting, based upon the additional students, they will be getting additional funds in their allocation because it's per pupil. So because of that, there's a natural resource reallocation for that. So just to kind of give you, so the answer is yes, but I do have to make sure that everybody understands that it's per pupil basis.
Yeah, and I just wanted, so we're all on the same page about what that means. So thank you for that. And next is, so this is like a broader question tied to what is going on nationally, but have you heard anything about there being is there any risk of not getting the necessary allocation, and how we might adjust? Should there be any adjustments to that allocation? Because we won't know about what that allocation will be until the fall, if I understood correctly.
You are correct.
Right.
As of right now, the guidance that we're receiving from the Virginia Department of Education is to go with level funding, and that we should be hearing about our allocation in the fall. That's the guidance we have received so far from the Virginia Department of Education, and that's how we get our direct information is from the state.
Final question is around McKinney-Vento. So in our operating budget, in our local budget, we have reduced the funds for transportation of our McKinney-Vento students. That is, I mean, we have transportation covered, if I remember, Dr. Polt, like for every student that will need it. But could we use Title I funds to support what we are not funding through the local budget to supplement that? Any needs?
No, we possibly be supplanting it.
Yeah, you can't.
And
Okay, that's why I
Dr.
wanted to
Cito's
be
favorite
clear.
thing is
Okay.
you must supplement, you cannot supplant.
Right.
So when we did that analysis, when we looked at the funding, if you recall, it was 2 years ago, I think, at this point, where we started the process of buying vans for the division and then hiring drivers. Those started this year. So we know we'll have that cost savings, because having our own drivers is much more affordable than hiring out a service like we have to do. So we are confident we'll have that
Okay,
covered.
and that's why I was not asking to suggest that we do supplement, but just that we are careful with, just wanting to be clear about that's not
And
what we're.
legally, we're obligated, so if there's some chance that
It
all of a sudden there's a
increases or-
huge spike and there's an increase, then we're obligated to relook at the budget, and we
Okay.
would have to come to the board to do
Okay,
some kind of transfer of funds at that point.
okay,
Correct.
all right, just want to be sure
We're able to supplement, we're not able to supplant the funding
Right.
for that. But Title I does use some of the supplemental funds to support other needs that our students that qualify for McKinney-Vento may need. And that's where you heard a little bit about the Family Welcome and Wellness Center information.
Not just for the board, but also for the public, can you give basic description of the differences?
Sure, absolutely. So we have to ensure that the school division provides across all schools that we have, right? Every school within Norfolk Public Schools, that the Title I schools get those same things. So say, for example, everyone gets a reading specialist, okay? What I can do at the Title I level, after that's all taken care of, if the school needs additional reading support, I can provide a Title I teacher to provide intervention as a supplement. We can add an instructional coach as a supplement, okay? So once the division provides, then we can supplement above that. Same thing with resources. So say the school division's purchasing this certain resource, but we know we benefit by having more of those in the Title I schools, we can supplement from there. Supplant is where we have been paying for something out of local funds, such as McKinney-Vento Transportation, and then we use Title I funds to pay for it the following year, and we're supplanting. You're very welcome.
Thank you very much.
Is there any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Cito. We'll continue our conversation around the Title I applications, Title I, II, III, and IV plan proposal for school year 26-27. Mr. Brady? Welcome.
Good afternoon, Chair Moore Buffalo, Vice Chair DeCalagero, Dr. Rose, members of the school board. Joined this afternoon to my right by Ms. Julianne Flores, our senior coordinator of ESL, who is a 3 grant manager. And we're going to provide an overview of the 26-27 Title II, Title III, and Title IV preliminary grant applications for your review. Together, these federal funds, grants, provide supplemental funding to support positions, programs, and professional learning opportunities across Norfolk Public Schools, all with the shared goal of improving student achievement and strengthening instructional support for students and staff. Title II, Part A grant, often identified as TPT for Teacher Principal Training, supports professional development designed to improve the quality of instruction and strengthen effective school leadership. The preliminary Title II application totals more than $1.8 million. In accordance with federal regulations, eligible private schools within the city of Norfolk that choose to participate in the program will receive an equitable share of the funding, estimated at more than $155,000. Additionally, as we have done in previous years, a portion of Title IV funds will be transferred to Title II in order to maximize support for teachers and professional development initiatives while still maintaining the planned activities supported through Title IV. Comprehensive needs assessment from the development of the 5-year strategic plan and follow-up surveys in subsequent years identified a need for additional support for new teachers, provisionally licensed teachers, and schools with the greatest instructional needs. The positions funded through Title II provide job-embedded coaching, intervention support, professional learning, and instructional leadership to help teachers improve their practice and increase student achievement. These positions allow us to place expertise directly in schools where the data show the greatest needs and to support new and/or struggling teachers. Among the needed positions are 2 reading and 4 math specialists assigned to school buildings. The remaining positions, 4 core content teacher specialists, 3 response to intervention specialists, the division's professional development teacher specialist who supports new teachers and coordinates the mentor program, as well as a division-level instructional coach, prioritize support for new and struggling teachers and schools. The needs assessment also identified the importance of supporting teacher effectiveness, helping provisionally licensed teachers become fully licensed, strengthening leadership capacity, and expanding teacher pipelines in shortage areas. The professional development activities funded through Title II directly address those needs through new teacher induction, mentoring, praxis exam and licensure support, content-specific professional learning, training for AP and IB teachers, leadership development for principals and assistant principals with the College of William & Mary, STEAM initiatives, and grow your own programs developing ESL and dual enrollment teachers. Moving to the next grant, the Title III grant provides funding to support the academic achievement and language development of English learners as they work towards English proficiency. The grant also assists classroom teachers in strengthening instructional practices that support English learner students. The preliminary Title III award for 26-27 is more than $203,000. This slide illustrates how Title III funds are utilized to support the ESL teacher specialist position, professional development software for classroom teachers, and ongoing professional development opportunities for ESL teachers so they can better support classroom teachers, support administrators, and students. Final grant, preliminary Title IV allocation is just under $1.2 million, with participating private schools receiving more than $54,000 in equitable services funding. As previously mentioned, a portion of Title IV funding will be transferred to Title II to support professional development efforts. This slide highlights several positions and programs supported through Title IV programming or funding. Funded positions include the Student Transition Support Specialist and Safe Schools Specialist. Both of those are in the Department of Services, and a Spanish teacher at Southside STEM Academy at Campus Delta. Programs and initiatives supported through Title IV include advanced placement exam fees, PSAT exams, SAT school day testing, anti-bullying and suicide prevention materials, and access to Princeton Review's Tutor.com. Funding also supports additional interpretation services through the language group, as well as literacy initiatives through the Division's One Book program for non-Title I schools. This concludes our presentation for this afternoon. We appreciate your time and consideration, and are now prepared to answer any questions you may have.
School board members, you've heard the presentation. Ms. DeCalagero, you have a question?
How do we determine what the private school set-asides are?
So there's a formula that's embedded in the application, and so it's based on their student enrollment, which they report to us now, their projected enrollment, just like our own. When the award is confirmed in September, then we enrollment information, and we make those adjustments. But it automatically provides to all of those private schools receive based on. And it varies. We have some large private schools that may get $30,000 in Title II funds. Small ones that might get $1,000. It varies by the size enrollment of their schools.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Brady. On slide 7, where you show us the Title IV transfer out to Title II for the
Yes.
professional development. Can you refresh our memories on why that transfer is necessary and what is, I don't want to say consequence, that sounds, what the impact is then on items that we would fund in Title IV as a result of that transfer?
Yes, so the Title IV funds going over to Title II help support professional development. There's a part of the application that's actually called the transferability in Title II. And on the transferability, we have those 3 response to interventionist specialists that go in and support struggling teachers, new teachers, struggling schools. those specialists are looking at their data and are helping them respond to that data with interventions. Have those in both the English office, the math office, and then we have one with new teachers. So trying to cover all the grounds there. But in order to fund that support, we move those funds over. Title II. All right. Title IV, we have, even with the transfers, we've been able to support everything that we've set out to do as our goals for providing programs for students. And we've been able to expand upon that a little bit because the Title IV award has increased a little bit. And so we're putting more money towards AP exams as they've gotten more expensive. But we're maintaining the price for students, I think, since about 2010. Yeah, I think the students pay for one, or no, every student gets one paid for. And then I think students pay maybe $15 for
it's
each
15,
additional.
yeah.
Yeah.
As having
So-
paid them recently,
I think they're $100 a piece now.
it's a great,
Or in that area, yeah.
Yeah.
We've been able to add, just a year or so ago, SAT school day. So all of our juniors get a free SAT exam. We had a little bit more money added last year, so we're being able to supplement the language group because the interpretation needs for the school division have increased and maxed out our own local support. And so we can supplement that. So, we're providing the suicide and anti-bullying prevention, and so, so I don't, occasionally, like with the previous grant, we weren't able to fill a couple positions. So we were able to move those funds within Title IV. And just this past spring, we were able to provide flexible seating classrooms in all of our elementary schools.
Like you talk about like mixed income seats, or you're not talking about?
Flexible
what-
seating,
what-
like
I guess elaborate
sitting
on
on
what
the
that is.
balls.
Actual, like,
So-
okay, I thought you meant like bringing in, okay.
No, wobble seats.
Right.
I got you, all right.
Yeah,
Okay.
students are a little bit more,
Right.
yeah, and allows them.
That kind of
Classroom.
flexible seating,
Yeah.
okay,
So I think,
All right.
we're able to meet all of our needs
okay.
that we utilize Title IV funds.
Right. So I asked that question, so to follow up on what you've just shared, like, I know the allocation has increased for Title IV, in the Title IV grant, right? And thinking about the non-academic needs of our students and mental health supports, and then looking at our data, which we've been monitoring, around chronic absenteeism, disciplinary practices, and things like that. And it seems like that need is still significant based on what we're seeing in our division. So I guess I'm still, concerned about how that, if that transfer is, what the cost is to those programs that might support our non-academic needs of our students while we're transferring that to PD, our struggling educators. Because it seems like we need that. We need those supports for our non-academic.
It's a great question,
Yeah.
and I'll take one, for instance, attendance. So you guys had the opportunity to meet Michelle Moore when she came and she did the presentation on our graduation coaches and everything else. Her and I have been in the works with some programming for attendance issues and supports for attendance issues to pilot something. So we'll be able to use some of the rollover funds for that. And then if that's successful, that's something we would look to grow. But at the same time, when Mr. Brady and I, when we talk about the balancing here, we have to think about what would we lose in Title II as well. So a lot of the times we talk about that new teacher support that we need, you know, and just teacher support in general that we need with how many newer teachers or, you know, associate teachers that we have. That's where the Title II is vital. So, you know, we could balance and do more on that end, but, you know, it's a give and take, right? So trying to balance that the best, and we feel like we're in a really good spot right now where we can start to pilot some different things and see where they are, since we have seen a slight increase here, but we want to be cautious about what we move away from Title II and what ramifications that may have.
Okay. I appreciate the explanation. Thank you.
But I also think as we look at use of resources when they're the first time, you know, expenditures, we start making sure that we address the return on that investment to determine whether there should be constant shifts to determine what's most effective. I mean, I think it's a very valuable question, because as we make changes to programs based upon funding, we should also always ask ourselves, how will this be measured, and how we determine effectiveness over time, right? So that's what kind of what that question gets at. I think it's smart.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you, Mr. Brady.
If I could ask some grace for a minute.
Yes.
Being my last presentation for the board, as I close out my 40 years with NPS at the end of the month, I just wanted to say I have been so blessed over these years. I am so grateful for the opportunities that I've had. I could have never imagined what opportunities there would be for me. I walked into Norview High School 40 years ago.
Co-pilots?
Yes, in the old Norview High School, yes. And I think I just missed the opportunity of
To teach me.
to teach you, yes, yes. And of course, being 20, that was just, you know, a couple years ago, yeah. But and in those years, I've never entertained the thought of working anywhere else. Came here from the Pittsburgh area. It was just by chance. I couldn't find a job, and ended up here. And I had the most wonderful students at Norview High School, just incredible students who are now all over the district, a lot of them teaching and in administration. And Jesse Zamora, one of my students back at Norview, right? And your brother, and your wife, I think. Yes, yes. So, yeah, just amazing. I've had the most wonderful mentors. You know, thinking to Dr. Marjorie Staley at Norview High, learned so much. I've had mentors here, including Dr. Pohl, these past few years, where I've learned so much. And the past 21 years in curriculum and instruction, I've had the honor to work with dedicated, passionate, talented people who are very committed to supporting teachers and students. So I can only hope that I've given back to the district as much as I've received from it over these decades. But it's time to move on, and I'll be watching and cheering from the sidelines. And if you ever need any help, just let me know.
Well, that was my next comment, to see Ms. Ashley Scott on your way out to make sure you get a application.
Okay.
when you're able to.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Well done. All right, we're going to move, Dr. Pohl is ready. All right, we're going to move to the 27-28 academic calendar. I can't believe we're here.
Tell you what, and to answer your question, Ms. Buffalo, I've already mapped out the 30-day separation from
Right.
Mr. Brady and have his first day back on my calendar, so, we do appreciate that, Mr. Brady, and thank you for those words, those were very nice. So good afternoon, everybody. It's my favorite presentation of the year. Madam Chair Buffalo, Vice Chair DeCalagero, members of the board, Dr. Rose, and of course, our community members. This afternoon, I'm here to present the two calendar options for the 27-28 school year, as well as the results from the community survey. I'll review the guidelines to creating the calendar, give an overview of the process, share the options and possible inclement weather days, and then finish with the survey data. So according to the NPS policy, and I know many of you have seen this before, but I think it warrants repeating every year, the school year has to be a minimum of at least 180 days or 990 hours. And that "or" is an important word in our policy. Some other divisions don't have, but we do, and that follows state code. NPS has followed the 990-hour minimum versus the 180-day for the last many years in our division. The time excludes lunch. However, recess can count for up to 15% of the learning time. And the state made that dedication about a decade ago now, I think it was. So at the elementary level, NPS has 6 hours and 25 minutes per full day, and that's our smallest day. High school has about 30 minutes more in their schedule. And so that translates to 355 minutes in a day, and 235 minutes for every early release day. So when we do calculations of hours of instruction, this is how we do it. We base it off this so that we know all of our other schools meet that threshold. So I briefly wanted to share that the 20 members is 21 because I'm not on the slide, but I lead the committee's work for the academic calendar committee, consisting of members from all over central office, a principal from each level, as well as teachers from each level. We include our teachers of the year every year. The elementary, middle, and high school teacher of the year are on the committee, as well as our teacher association presidents. This year, the initial discussion actually took place in January with our teacher senate. And this is if you recall, our teacher senate is our current sitting teachers of the year at every school. Then the division-wide committee met in April, followed by information gathered at our teacher forum, which that's an elected teacher member from every school, so they gave feedback as well. Then the committee met again to finalize the drafts before going out to survey, and the survey was live from May 15th through May 26th, which then brings us to where we are today. So option A, and I know you can't see that, but they were in the packet as well. Option A starts 2 weeks prior to Labor Day, as the board agreed upon a few years ago. It includes 191 teacher workdays. Just as an aside, our teacher contracts are 200 days. So that gives 9 flexible days to teachers of work that we know they do well beyond the calendar in the school day that are built in already. 177 full and 3 early release student days. So this would be the first calendar in a while that has a full 180 days for students to come to school for instructional time, which is 1,059 instructional hours, which is an increase of 23 hours over next year's calendar that's in place already. I want to emphasize that's 4 additional days of instruction, which is paramount to our students. The more instructional time we have, the stronger our outcomes will become. I just want to say that before I get to the survey data. It includes 4 teacher work days that do not include professional development, and then 2 dedicated professional development days, and a 3-day Thanksgiving break, as well as our 2-week winter break that's kind of become a tradition in Norfolk to try to uphold that. This calendar ends a week later than the current calendar to accommodate the desired and for the designated professional development days, as well as the holiday schedule that's become, a custom, and that includes the 3-day Thanksgiving break as well. But that does add a week. So the past couple of years, we've ended the week of Memorial Day. This would go one full week beyond that on this option. So option B still starts 2 weeks prior to Labor Day. This one only has 188 teacher work days, so this extends and there's 12 extra days on the contract. 175 full and 4 early release days, so we're down to 179 days. 1,051 hours instruction, which is 16 hours more than next year's calendar, which is 2.5 days more, so they do both add some instructional time. This, however, has 4 professional development days combined with work days. And I'm going to take an aside from my notes here to say that is probably one of the most complained about aspects about our calendar from our teachers. They want full work days. I just want to emphasize that before I get to the survey data. that this has only a 2-day Thanksgiving break, going back to that early release the Wednesday before, because we need the time. We need the instructional time in our calendar. And it still maintains the 2-week winter break. This week ends, this calendar ends the Memorial Day week, so like we've become accustomed to on that end of it. In order to increase the instructional time in the option, which is only by 2.5 days, and end the week earlier, this requires the sharing of the PD days. And it also requires the fact, you'll notice at the end of a couple quarters, there's only an early release day and not a work day. We just don't have the time to afford to give up that instructional time. So given the amount of instructional time, option A could use 3 bank days for makeup weather if need be. And you saw this year, we did hour by hour chip away at those this year. And then with our wonderful special election, we chipped the last piece off that rock at the end of the year. All needed times, and that's why we built it in the calendar. And we didn't have to use a makeup day. On option B, we'd have enough time to get 2 bank days in, but you'd see then if we had bad weather in the fall, like a hurricane comes through, and then if we have snow in the winter, we're starting to make up, President's Day, we start to make up on a work day, and we have to start calculating those days, which are unpopular. But we've seen those have to be done in the past. So the survey this year, we had 2,432 responses. It's a little bit lower than last year, but still, this is a good sample size. The highest responses follow the same data patterns as the past 3 or 4 years, with parents and guardians with the highest return rate, and teachers coming in, not even a close second, but coming in at second place. Demographically, this pretty much mirrors exactly our numbers from last year as well, with our demographic responses as well. So in the survey, if any of you took the survey, you'll know you have the option of leaving a comment or not, and you can leave 1 comment or 2 comments. So we have more comments than we had responses. So I just wanted the community to know that we added that properly. It was just because the way you can comment on this. So we had a total of 2,678 comments. And those favoring option A cited the additional teacher planning time, more structured professional development, longer holiday breaks, fewer fragmented early release days throughout the year, and better pacing of breaks as reasons for choosing this option. So that's why they liked it. For option B, ending the school year early was by far the most commented reason, with reducing perceived excess teacher work days and PD days. So some of the comments said there are too many work days in option A, so we don't need any more in there. Avoiding instructional time, and extending further in June, which is virtually the same as the ending the school year earlier. So the other way they said it was instructional time that late in the summer is just, it's not good instructional time. Well, it has to be good. It's instructional time, period. And with worries expressed about school ending too late in option A was, again, a way they expressed that. So then this caused me to want to dig deeper in the data and think, okay, this was the overall data and the overall feedback. What do our teachers really feel about this? And this is where I was equally as surprised. There were 620 comments, and the teacher's responses reveal clear tension between wanting the planning professional time and wanting to not extend that school year another week into June. And although many teachers appreciated the structural planning benefits of option A, the stronger emotional and practical concern was the school year end date on the comments. And you could feel it in the comments when you read it. I mean, you just could. It was like that, do I want the work days or do I want that week? You could feel it. And the teacher feedback suggests that the teachers value the planning time, but they believe the additional work days in option A were not worth extending the calendar later into June. The key takeaway when reviewing the data among the teachers specifically, option B was strongly preferred, primarily because it ended the school year earlier and reduced perceived excess work days and burnout. And when I say stronger, you'll see on the last numbers data side, it was 66 to 33%. The teachers, 2/3 said, I want to end early, 1/3 said, I want the planning time, is what it came down to. So when combining the responses, you can see that 45% chose option A, 55% chose option B in the overall. And again, you can see the teachers really had the biggest divide here on their decision here. So overall, kind of an executive summary this year, we had, of the 2,439 response and the written responses with the open-ended comment fields, option B was preferred by 54.9% over option A. And the dominant reason for preferring option B was the desire for an earlier end of the school year, especially avoiding instruction deep into June. Option A supporters primarily valued additional teacher workdays, planning time, and more generous holiday breaks. And the strongest tension in the comments was between the planning time and the length of the school year for staff and students. So thanks again for allowing me to bring this to you and share the SY28 options for discussion and questions. We're ready and open. And then the goal is June 17th meeting to bring you a recommendation based off today's conversation. So with that, I'm ready.
All right, I see two hands. Dr. Martin, Ms. DiCalagero, and Ms. Basine. We'll go in that order. Dr. Martin?
So, I know Virginia Beach is still in school.
So is Newport News.
Is Newport News as well? Okay, so are we the one of the only districts in the region that
Portsmouth
lets
is
out early?
Yeah, Portsmouth is out as well.
Okay.
Hampton is, in Hampton, they were out last week.
And then my other question is, whenever we first decided to look at starting the school year early, 2 weeks before Labor Day, there was some discussion around the impact on testing. And I know we haven't gotten our test scores yet. But in the fall, do you anticipate that we may see an improvement in our academic performance on the SOLs or no?
So I can't really share yet where we fall with that because we still don't have VAP results and other results in yet. I think, one of the bigger discussions, there's a couple, was around AP testing. So AP testing is set beginning of May nationally, and we were losing 2 weeks of instruction. So we're really starting to try to look at the trend of AP data. And you'll notice when Ms. Stead showed you some impressive data from the gifted presentation tonight that we're increasing participation in AP. So that's a big part of that early start. Another important thing that we're going to have to watch for is the legislation that has passed that all SOL testing, and this makes Ms. McGarity cringe a little bit, but we're already working on it. Next year, all SOL testing has to be in the final 2 weeks of school, which then again, will maximize our instructional time. So again, with that information, looking at option A helps us again maximize instructional time because it's no longer where we'll be testing a month early before school's out. It'll be that last 2 weeks. So I think that the verdict's still out on that. But wanted to go back to your first question too. So specifically, when Virginia Beach started going before Labor Day, they never changed their end date. So they added time when they did it, and they never changed their end date. And they added a lot of work days and stuff in there. And I just think there's some value to that, even if it's the unpopular decision.
They have more breaks throughout.
They have dedicated teacher work days. They, in the middle of the calendar, they're able to do 2 work days with their calendar the way they have it because they just added weeks to the front end. And when we did it, you remember, we did a 1 week shift, then a 1 week shift. But we have not gained our instructional time back since COVID. So these 2 options at least start to do that. And you probably see my lean towards option A in all my comments. I think that's obvious. But gives us even more instructional time.
Ms. DiCalagero?
I have a question/comment and a comment. It looks like the issue this year really is that we have a late Labor Day.
Correct.
Because we
Absolutely correct.
have started before the 23rd of August for these last couple of years. Is there any talk of starting the school year earlier than the 23rd of August? Because that would I think we started as early as August 16th in one of the past couple of years. I
So
can't
this year we
remember.
started August 17th.
Okay.
So in order to do that, we would have to get state board approval.
I
So
thought there was something
The
that,
law says that you can start up to 2 weeks before Labor Day on your own with division, with board approval, local board approval. But if you want to go more than that, the state board has to approve the reasoning why.
okay. Because it seems like that would solve our problem. We'd
Correct.
get the more
And, you know,
instructional time.
Some of the comments from like teacher forum members and on the survey, some of the comments were, we need to just stick to a start time and stay with it. Now that we're going to, starting later, it's not fair because the realization of Labor Day is.
It's as
like,
late, it's almost as
September
late as it
starts
can
on a
be.
Tuesday, so Labor Day is that Monday following, so it's like we're going a whole week later. So we'll work to communicate that whenever the decision's made. so the
Okay,
community knows that.
because that seems like the most feasible thing. So as an educator myself, I like option A because I think those planning days and those little break days are better. But as a parent, watching what my kids have been doing the last 3 weeks of school is abhorrent. And my younger child will be in basically all APs next year, so she won't be on the 4x4 schedule. And she'll be done May 15th-ish, and then with option A, she'll be in school for 3 weeks, and no one's teaching after the APs. No one really wants to be locked in, and then it becomes a struggle with getting her to go to school. And I said, did you save up enough days so that you can just miss the last 3 weeks? I don't think so, so you have to go to school. So it gives me a lot of pause as a parent because I know for all, and I'm lucky I have girls that academically do well. They take AP courses. That's not true for everybody, but they just have nothing to do the last couple of weeks of school. And then by extending school out another week, because the AP exams will still have their cutoff date, I just would rather them be out as a parent. But as an educator, I'd rather have option A starting earlier. And I don't think I can get what I want, so.
Survey?
I did do the survey.
I think,
I chose option A.
I think that's a different conversation to have about the work following an AP exam. Because it shouldn't be where there's nothing to do. There's plenty to do.
I know there's
yeah.
plenty to do, but the reality is, even during those AP exam weeks, like, you could be in a class where you're meeting for class and 12 of the other kids are out of
Taking an
class
exam,
because they're taking an exam. And so that whole month of May just becomes sort of their focus locked in on their exams. And once that's over, that's where their attention span has died. And by keeping them in school for an extra week, I worry about that. I also worry about exam testing the last 2 weeks of the school year going into June, because I worry that so many people might just be completely burnt out and unable to get their kids to school, and then we'll have a whole nother issue with the AP testing. So I really like option A, but I might have to support option B, just in terms of what I think is best for
For your child.
for my child.
Right.
But I'm talking about huge swath as a parent, huge. I know there's a lot of people that fall into this issue. It's not just my children. But I worry about, as a board member, I worry about pushing SOL testing into the first week of June as well. I worry that last week that we may not have the students around to even
So
take the test.
Let me comment on that. I think no matter when the last week of school is, it's the last week of school.
Yeah.
And I think you could probably find folks that say the same about this year's calendar and saying, oh my gosh, going after Memorial Day, those 4 days, wasted days. I think next year's legislation is going to change some of that because we will be doing SOL testing up to the end of the school year. And I think the great majority of our student body that we need to be focusing on is our SOL testers. We, of course, need to support our AP testers and everything else, but when we're talking instructional time, the instructional time is that time between the first day of school and when they sit for that SOL test.
Yeah.
And I think as a governing body, that's the responsibility that we have to look at.
Well, and we have two things here. I think when culture butts up against practice, right? And so I think that we have, this cultural dilemma when people look at a calendar as it relates to kind of what they're used to and when they're used to kind of getting out, and a life rhythm, which is why the calendar is very difficult, right? Because it impacts life. But in the meantime, I think that we also have to constantly hone in on our expectations about practice in terms of how we use the time as well. And so, and I would agree, I do think we also need to understand that time is not equitable as it relates to the amount of time our students are focused on academics if we look beyond the school day. We have some students who are academically driven and supported in a particular way where academics outside of the school day far extends beyond some other students. So our job is to think about every single student, right? And regardless of what calendar we choose, and I have opinions myself, and I'll hold them to myself.
Much better than
That being said, I think that regardless of the calendar, we also need to think about how we support and lead schools as it relates to expectations on use of time,
Yes.
right? And so I think that there are almost two discussions that we're having at once, even
Yeah.
though we're only talking about the calendar.
Right.
And I just think it's important that we remind ourselves that regardless of the calendar we choose, based upon what's our favorite, we also have an opportunity as leaders to promote the use of structured time to focus on some of the academic and social opportunities our students deserve.
But what's the feasibility of going back and asking to start on the 16th instead of the 23rd?
Of this summer?
Yeah, because we've been starting on the 16th or 17th the last couple of years. And I also,
No, just
No,
this year.
just this year.
It's just the 2 weeks that fall before.
Only done
It's,
that the
this
last
year
two
is
years.
just
That's
a
what it
little,
is.
this
That's
year.
what it is.
This year we
Yeah,
done
with
early? I
Labor
thought
Day
they
falling,
is.
it's just a little,
but I thought the previous year we started 2 weeks early.
earlier.
just
We
a
d-
week.
oh.
Yeah, we phased it in.
Phased
We
it
did,
in.
and then we did.
I'm adding years to
There
the
you go.
academic calendar. It's just, I guess it's just been a long year.
Yeah, we
But
phased it in.
But what's the feasibility of really starting around the 16th to the 18th, like ongoing? I thought there was some legislation that would give school systems more,
just
It's
the 2
2
weeks.
it's just 2
It's
weeks.
just the 2 weeks that they
Labor
give us.
Day.
And
Then you have to give
And you
5
have to
days
give that-
around Labor Day.
4 days.
you have to
have
give
to give
a
that-
longer holiday around Labor
Right.
Yeah,
Day.
you have
Like
to
right
give-
now, starting 2 weeks before Labor Day, we're required for no students to be in school on the Friday
Friday
before Labor
before
Day.
Labor Day.
If you start earlier than that, Labor Day is a longer holiday, so families can travel.
Yeah,
So,
and then
yeah.
if we want to, if it was ever the will of the board to make that kind of adjustment, I would also say that as a system, we would likely need to know probably by February, right, to start planning, because there's so much summer infrastructure work that happens that if it's already
Teacher
planned out,
Institute and
right?
all that,
Yeah, and then everything that
Free
happens in
service week.
operations.
So,
This
And
is
then-
for the 27, 28,
Right,
just to be, so
right.
Yeah, it's not
everybody
26,
is
27.
clear. We're not talking about next school year,
Right.
but we're talking
And
about.
when, does anybody know when we are starting next school year, when that start date is?
I have to look at my calendar, I think it's 24th.
And we've
So it's-
also
it's
started
another
to
late
commit
year.
to introducing two years ahead. That was something that we've started to do this year right now.
Started to do it last year, so this is the second year of that 2-year interval.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was the one thing that I know, I mean, I had to ask that question ahead of this meeting today. And first, before I go on,
Sarah, are you,
Thank you.
do we have the start time?
It's the 24th.
Okay,
Yeah,
24th.
24th.
Looked it up.
You have another question?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
yeah, so last 2 years ago, we said we wanted to do it in 2-year intervals, like a lot of other districts do. And it also was something that I know at the school level they liked because they could do their master schedules and they knew ahead of time and families knew ahead of time, all to your point around, culture and expectations, right? So, and I noticed this one was a 1-year calendar and I asked about why
So,
a 1-year
yeah.
calendar versus a 2-year.
So we did the 2-year calendar step back. So when I came in and when we started the calendar, after COVID, we had to rush to get one together at that point. We were not even 6 months ahead of the start of the year. So about 3 years ago, we did a 2-year calendar. And that 2-year calendar gave us the leeway then that we're always more than 12 months ahead of when we're doing a calendar now. So that it's like if we always did a 2-year calendar, which we could do, we would only do it every other year, which then still gives the same time frame. And then you're with a military town, people moving in and out, you don't get the same feedback. And, so doing it annually is a better process. But we did the 2 years so that we could jump ahead, which is why we're doing 27, 28 now. So we're a full year ahead, a full summer ahead of vacations. Because that was the biggest pushback. When we did a calendar, I think we passed the calendar in February for the next year.
Yes, right.
We were that close, and parents complained.
We were, even one year, we were even later than that, and it was.
Right.
You remember, it was not pretty.
So, what we could do, if it's the will of the board, is we could move calendar up to like a February timeframe, and that gives us a few more months ahead. But I wouldn't recommend going back to a 2-year cycle every time again.
Okay.
Because then I think we're missing out on feedback.
Right.
And being able to make adjustments to the calendar easier.
Yeah, and you felt like the feedback, because the last time we did that, you felt like the feedback, we also know what happens when we ask for survey feedback at this time of the year.
And it was, and this is our best feedback of every survey we get. This is the most
true.
response. So we always have a good base of data for this survey. But the feedback we got the year we did 2 calendars, it was super confusing. Because we had, school year 25, option A, option B, school year 26, option A, option B. Everybody was confused.
They were.
Yeah.
Well, I personally think this is fine, because we are a whole year out.
And that's our goal, to stay over a year out
Yeah.
For the community.
Yeah. But I have some specific questions. So going back to, I think, what Dr. raised with the SOLs and when they're administered. So like you said, they're the last 2 weeks of school. And with that, the quality, so kind of the feedback that was received on option B and talking about, well, the quality of instruction in the last couple of weeks of schools is not great. Like, that kind of forces that quality has to be strong. No matter what, it should be. But with the SOLs being in those last 2 weeks, that to me makes that piece of feedback a little, it kind of
Negates it a little bit.
negates it a little bit. So my question is, do our educators know that legislation is in place, and are they aware of that's coming?
So, yeah, in our principals, it's been a big discussion, and we're looking at actually, there might be some other changes to how we do testing during that time frame to make sure that we especially at our high schools and middle schools, the larger campuses of students, to test in that crunch of a time frame is going to be different than what we've ever done. I think there's pros and cons to it. I could speak a lot about that legislation. I don't think we need to do that, but the principals know, teachers know about it. We're already working with principals and making plans about how do we make this really work. So exactly that, because the big thing it changes for us and other urban divisions is usually we test, and we can have 2 full weeks to remediate before retesting.
Retesting. I was gonna.
Now that we don't, we test, and they could be testing on day 4, so we have 6 days left to retest that student if they qualify for it. The other, and I know I'm a little off topic here, the other area of concern, like this year with our science tests that were being recalibrated because of new standards, scores came in later. So it could be where we have this 2-week window and we get scores 2 days before the end of school and we're like, oh, we can remediate the student. They have a 375. They were close enough that it could be an anomaly of the test. Let's give them some instruction, remediate them. We might miss that opportunity. So it's going to change a lot of how we look at SOL testing. And I think that's a discussion that we're going to weave into the state of the schools a little bit during another presentation.
Okay, well, thank you, because then, so it does tie, I do think it's relevant, because I think, related to slide 12, my question to you and the administration is, what do our students need? Like, what is best for our students? And to me, that is at the core, at the center of this discussion. I know parents, and I think it's interesting, because, we've heard from educators over the years, I've been in this seat a while, and it's like, I want more planning time. We don't have enough planning time. And then, they didn't want to start early, and now they want to, and, now they're seeing, I guess, how the adjustments, change is hard for everybody, but I want to know at the core of this, what is in the best interest of all of our students?
Minutes in the seat.
So,
Instructional time is the most vital part of any instructional calendar.
So with that in mind, which option is the administration recommending to us? Or,
We're going to come back on the 17th with a recommendation
hold
based off
this
this
thought.
discussion.
There's only,
But instructional time is the most vital part of any academic calendar.
and quality instructional
Quality
time, which
instructional
is
time.
something that will be, I know, worked out, yeah. So with that, to me, it sounds like option A is, I'm looking at you.
there's an 8-hour difference between the instructional time on the two calendars.
2-day difference. It's a 2-day difference.
Why does it say 105, 9 hours?
Let me get Dr. Rose.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to clarify.
So I would say regardless of what we choose, let's put out an example. If we go with option B because there's critical mass of enthusiasm around that, then from a leadership perspective, this is what I think about, is okay, if that is the case, and we therefore know that there are 8 hours difference, delta, between the two, right? Then it changes the leadership strategy as it relates to the pressure and support on how we use our time throughout the year, right? So you can go one way or another, regardless of how you go, that changes the strategy. So for example, if we went with option B, which has less time, right, then I think it's us as educational leaders to create clarity and expectation as to how we're going to use our time, knowing that we chose a calendar that is 8 hours less. So therefore, I just believe in using leverage. And so I would use the leverage on one calendar versus the other as it relates to expectations. So just if that makes any sense, that's how I would think about it even now, even before we start that year.
Did you, is that the end of your question?
So you're looking to us to leave this discussion with some lean toward a particular option though, right? Or are you just gonna come, I guess that's what what do you want from us?
So I think, traditionally, when we've come to the board, we try not to make a decision the same day we present something.
Right.
I think we discuss it. I
that
think you guys need to
chew
mull
on
it
it.
over and think about it. And if it's off the consent agenda and it's on decision agenda for the 17th, that's where the final conversation comes. And as a body, you decide on where we go.
I right now, if I were to take a vote right now, I support option A. And I don't know where my colleagues stand, but
I would back you up if we was voting today.
I know we're not, but like,
I
if you
know.
come back on the 17th and say that's
Well-
where I'm leaning. But I'm open to discussion,
Well, some of us, again, that's why we have these work sessions, to kind of air out some things. We got 2 weeks into the business meeting, and for folks to chew on it, go back and, revisit the presentation and the comments that Dr. Pold has shared with us, and so.
I would be surprised if you aren't receiving emails at this moment.
Probably.
Yeah,
Yeah, sure.
But at the end of the day, it's about
It's about the
student
kids,
outcome and
the
nothing
students.
personal.
Student outcomes, I
It's
just wish we could
as a
start
whole.
earlier.
Yeah,
Yeah, as a whole.
absolutely. All right. Dr. Poe, go nowhere.
Staying
Think
put.
you got policy updates?
All right, another favorite topic. So good afternoon again, everybody. I'm going to give you a brief overview of 16 policies up for review this month. I'd like to mention the following major changes with vital updates to the few policies. The ones I don't mention, as you're aware, they're minimal changes or just simple changes to the policy, nothing major. So policy JFCD had a title change to weapons on school property instead of weapons in school. So it's broader, encompassing broader right now. The substantial changes here were to bring this policy into legal compliance, excuse me, and to update the necessary codes and cross-references. Policy JFCE is gang activity or association. This is also a substantially updated policy, and similar to JFCD, it's to bring it up to the necessary codes and cross-references. Excuse me. Policy JGA on corporal punishment. This one didn't have substantial changes, but the new VSBA lead counsel has done some rewriting on policies. Her language is just different than the last. Thank you very much. Nice haircut, by the way.
I didn't get it cut.
That was for Kristen. But it had, it provides more clarity. Her language is just a little bit different. And we noticed that the policy review committee, we talked about that a little bit, that just her language style is different. So a lot of the policies we saw was just some simple wording changes. Policy KGB, public conduct on school property. This was again revised to more closely follow the statutory language. Policy KK, school visitors, again, to provide clarity as well as for cross-reference updates. And then KP, parental involvement in education, was heavily revised to add clarity and substance to the language. So again, there weren't major changes to what the policy actually says. It just kind of defined it better in the language there. And then they also updated some legal code and cross-reference. And those are really the ones I wanted to make sure that we reviewed and to point out to the community. And any questions you may have, we're prepared to answer them.
I have one. Included in these policies are all the policies that we need to, as a board, approve annually, because I know there's some.
There are some that are annual approvals in
Annually.
here.
I
Yes,
see
some
the
of those, yes.
seclusion, and,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah,
so
like
those are-
JMZ, it's an
Yes.
annual. And also, and I'm pleased with this. We wrote our policy JMZ 3 or 4 years ago, I think it was. I'm looking at Dr. Walter because she was a big part of that rewrite. Other divisions have been looking to our policy JMZ. It's a strong policy, so I'm really pleased with the work that the division and the board did to pass that one through, because that's been in the news a lot lately.
Okay.
All right?
Anyone else? Thank you. All right, we're going to move down to 2.06, Gifted Education Plan Update. Ms. Fayette. Welcome.
Is it evening or afternoon? It's evening, afternoon.
Yeah.
Hello, Madam Chair Buffalo, Vice Chair DiCalogero, Superintendent Dr. Rose, members of the school board, and of course the community. Thank you for this opportunity to provide you an update of Norfolk Public Schools gifted services that include some of our Emerging Scholars Talent Pool work, student outcomes, participation trends, as well as next steps for our gifted local plan. Our work centers around two core ideas. I need to move two core ideas, equity and opportunity, as well as services above labels. We are focused on expanding access to advanced learning experiences while ensuring students receive the level of support and challenge that matches their readiness and needs. This begins with talent development at the elementary level. Our work centers to support the idea of equity and opportunity. Norfolk Public Schools continues to grow its Emerging Scholars Talent Development Program, which focuses on developing student potential through enrichment and exposure to higher level thinking. Emerging Scholars are students identified within the top 15% of the Cognitive Abilities Test, known as COGAT, within their individual schools, and they show strong potential but not yet readiness for formal gifted identification. These students receive targeted enrichment services and then are automatically retested in grade 4 to determine whether those extra services increase their readiness for formal gifted identification. This slide shows the demographics of the 2025-26 emerging scholars in grades 2 through 4 who received our services in addition to those services identified gifted. Notably, the demographics of our emerging scholars more closely reflects the diversity of the district, helping us move more toward equitable access. This year's COGAT screening identified 139 emerging scholars and reflects strong representation across student groups, including our English learners and students with IEPs or 504 plans. This data highlights our continued focus on identifying student potential across diverse populations. And as participation has expanded, we're now seeing growth in student readiness levels. The emerging scholars' COGAT benchmark scores continue to show steady growth over time. These scores, again, represent the top 15% of COGAT performers at each elementary school, and the upward trend suggests students are entering this emerging scholars talent pool with stronger readiness levels each year, which also aligns with the expansion of full-time gifted resource teachers, or GRTs, at every elementary school. Furthermore, since the expansion of full-time elementary GRTs, our lowest schools emerging scholars benchmark increased from 31% in 2022 to 50% in 2026, reflecting stronger student readiness. This year, we retested our second cohort of emerging scholars who were originally identified in 2023. Of those students, 33% were eventually identified as gifted, compared to the 12% of overall first grade cohort of more than 2,100 students. Those students that were identified gifted in the emerging scholars retesting process also reflect the diversity of our district. In 2025, the identified cohort was 44% African American, 16% multiracial, and 9.5% Hispanic. In 2026, the cohort of those emerging scholars subsequently, is the word, identified gifted, was 38% African American and 25% Hispanic, 4% Asian, and 29% white students, with English learners and student with disabilities each representing 8.5% of those students identified gifted. You will also notice that overall identification rates from that first grade COGAT screener continue to increase. Together, these results suggest that early talent development, exposure to advanced learning opportunities, and full-time elementary gifted resource teachers are helping more students across the district qualify for gifted services. We are also seeing growth in student reaching COGAT processing benchmarks. So Norfolk Public Schools uses the Cognitive Abilities Test, or COGAT, as a universal screener every February for all first grade students. This research-based best practice helps us cast a wider net to ensure that more students have a chance to be considered for gifted services. The percentage of students achieving at or above that 85th percentile, which allows them to be considered for formal gifted identification, has increased across most subgroups, including our African American and Hispanic students. This suggests our early talent development efforts are expanding access and readiness for gifted identification. So regarding our second big idea, Norfolk Public School also prioritized services above labels by providing advanced learning opportunities based on student readiness, not just an identification. Students develop at different ages, and gifted pedagogy benefits all learners through appropriate levels of challenge and support. So Level 1 includes enrichment opportunities for all students across the district. Our Level 2 services offer targeted small group instruction within the classroom. Level 3 supports this emerging scholars talent pool to build their readiness, and our Level 4 provides our identified gifted students with specialized instruction aligned to their strengths. The Arts and Sciences Enrichment Program is an example of a Level 1 service as it is available to all students across the district regardless of identification. This school, students participated in 87 arts and sciences enrichment classes across 29 schools. These experiences provide our students with additional exposure to creativity, to problem solving, and collaboration. As opportunities expand, we are also seeing increased referral activity across student groups. Gifted referrals, which occur every fall, has increased more than 25% from 2022 to 2025, with growth among our African American, Hispanic, English learners, and student with disability student groups. This indicates increased awareness, broader access, and stronger identification pathways across the division. We are also seeing strong academic outcomes for both our gifted students and emerging scholars. The Virginia Department of Education Standards of Learning, or SOL, results demonstrate strong academic performance for both our identified gifted students and our emerging scholars in regards to reading and mathematics. While gifted students continue to perform at a very high level, emerging scholars are also achieving strong, showing that the positive impact of early talent development and targeted academic support. In addition to academic performance, we also continue to monitor engagement and absenteeism. This data shows improved attendance trends among our emerging scholars and gifted students, particularly in our Title I schools. The decrease in chronic absenteeism suggests an increase in student engagement and connection to schools. As students progress toward the secondary setting, we also monitor participate in the advanced coursework. This data shows that the majority of middle school gifted students consistently participate in honors and high school credit-bearing courses across grades 6 through 8, demonstrating engagement and advanced academic opportunities as students transition into secondary coursework. These participation patterns continue into high school. This data demonstrates a high percentage of high school gifted students continue to participate in advanced coursework, particularly in advanced placement courses. AP participation has steadily increased over time, while honors participation has remained consistently strong across grades 9 through 12. As we continue this work, we are also preparing to a potential revision of our gifted local plan. As we complete year 4 of our current gifted plan, we are already laying the groundwork for our next review cycle. This slide outlines a timeline for our local plan gifted review process, which has already started with surveys, focus groups, stakeholder feedback. We'll do internal reviews and submit our drafts to the Virginia Department of Education. We look forward to continuing collaboration with staff, families, students, and the school board throughout this process. Norfolk Public Schools remains committed to expanding access to gifted services and creating opportunities for all students to thrive. Thank you very much for your continued support, and I'm happy to answer questions.
All right, school board members, you've heard the Gifted Education Plan update. Are there any questions? See?
Instead, thank you so much for the presentation. I just have a couple of questions. On slide number 9, it was really interesting, especially among our, among our students with disabilities, the jump from, 2021, then you see this big, larger increase 2024, 25. And I know one of the things that GIAC and, members of the school board over the years have really advocated for our twice exceptional students. Can you speak a little bit to how the great work that, your department has been doing around identification and referrals, how that may or may not have contributed to that, what we're seeing in that data, and if that is even what is contributing to it? I mean, the increase in participation in of that subgroup.
Absolutely. I do strongly believe that the expansion of having full-time gifted resource teachers in schools makes a lot of difference. A lot of those underrepresented populations is due to a lack of understanding, a lack of professional development. There is no gifted education as part of the teacher training process. So there is a lot of misconceptions. We know there's a lot of stereotypes out of what is and what isn't. Just because you're gifted doesn't mean you're going to get all A's. We know that there's a lot of underachievers. We know a lot of gifted students don't want anything to do with advanced placement, don't want anything to do with school.
Right.
They're extremely gifted.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know quite a number of them. So I do believe that having them and providing the professional development, I've been working with College of William & Mary. We have all kinds of online training. She actually is an expert at twice exceptionality. We have one of our gifted resource teacher has her doctorate in twice exceptionality. We work very closely with Dr. Walter's team as much as possible to make sure that those students with disabilities all have strengths, and those strengths should be recognized. But a lot of times, due to the misunderstanding of what a gifted student is or is not, they're not necessarily referred for gifted services. But when we are out there and we're saying, look what the student can do, not what they can't do, then there becomes it just changes the visions. So I absolutely think having more resources and more opportunities to explain to them what gifted really is and not what you think it is makes a big difference. And then when you open their eyes and you give them the opportunity to see what these students can do, then suddenly it snowballs. And so we still have work to do, but we are seeing some improvement. Same with our ELs. And I've already been talking to Ms. Flores about doing some more professional development. When I go to national conferences, there's a big push in the gifted and the Ls, and how do we identify those students that they speak multiple languages, right? But they might not do well on that test because it doesn't speak to their culture, their language, et cetera. So there's a way to do better with identifying them as well.
Well, great. Thank you. I just wanted you to elaborate on that. And appreciate that explanation. And then going to the slide around the passive, oh, you had you want to follow up question on that?
I did, I'm sorry, and maybe I missed it, but, so were we not tracking for SPED 2021, 22?
We started tracking back then, because we do it internally.
Okay,
And that was due to requests and so forth, and I just thought we should be doing this, so.
okay.
And we will continue.
Okay. So slide 13, we're looking at pass advanced and percentage pass. So how has our pass advanced changed from what we've seen over time? Because it seems like, just from what I know and monitoring that over the years, we're still kind of comparable to where we've been before. We're not really seeing a huge increase in the pass advanced, which, the board at one point had wanted a goal of trying to push raise the ceiling, and so push students.
A couple of thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, in the past, or even still, if they're passing, they're good enough, right?
Right.
And that's why we're such strong advocates for our learners, our gifted learners, or any high ability learner, that passing that should be the minimum.
Right.
Right? That
Right.
we should be pushing them.
Or, right.
And unfortunately, hey, they've got it, we're just going to focus on the one, and not that they don't need focused on, but we can't forget about the ones that need more to pass advance. So in the last year, with our previous administration in the government, they did pass a different accountability, yes, not accreditation,
Yeah.
which now pass advance is part of the formula, and so now principals are starting to pay attention.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of it as well. And I do know that instead of gifted resource teachers remediating just in general, they are actually ahead of time working with our gifted or our high ability. They do not have to be identified gifted, but any student that has mastered that tier 1 in that particular SOL class, some of the schools are strategically taking the GRD and say, work specifically with those students to get them to pass advance.
Okay.
So we're not seeing jumps yet, but I do think, I'm suspecting that we're going to start to see that go up, especially if that accountability stays in fact, and our gifted students are supposed to show growth as well.
Yeah.
So I think between the two, we should start seeing those numbers go up.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was thinking about when we're going to have this phased approach to the new cut scores. And so what we're seeing, I'm just thinking ahead, what we're seeing now with the pass advance would be part of that, right? So we're going to be having to raise the ceiling for every student. But where our gifted students would fall in that, is interesting. So I just think that we need to keep our eye on that. And finally, slide 15 and 16. So I asked questions about this, you're seeing, and I appreciate the explanation that as students go into AP classes, you're going to see a decrease in the honors classes. So, but for those students that are not reflected here, and to your point earlier in your presentation saying that just because they're gifted doesn't mean that they're, want to take AP classes or even be in school, but it's how do we know what they want and need? And for us as a board to kind of elevate that question, we know that that's true, I'm sure counselors could tell us that too, and graduation coaches would say they're just not interested in this. But what are they interested in is the question. Instead of those courses, what are we offering our high ability gifted students? Because they also are the same ones who aren't coming to school and are part of that chronic absenteeism, especially at the secondary level. So what do they need and what do they want, and how do we monitor that, whatever that is of those, that aren't in AP or honors courses? So
I think it's a great point. At the secondary level, our GRTs are stretched. They have to serve two, and their caseload goes from maybe 50 to 600. If you're serving a Maury and an ADL with extremely high gifted populations, there's no way you're going to meet all those kids.
Right.
So, I'll put a plug in that, it'd be great to have a full-time gifted, especially at our middle schools, because that is those 3 years are a big time period where our kids go underground, they underachieve. They go from being gifted, where they got pulled, to I guess I'm not gifted anymore, because.
And some don't even know they're gifted
anymore.
teachers.
It's just
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
and it's not the gifted research teacher's fault.
No, absolutely not.
They're in a supportive role.
Right.
So ideally, if we could increase resources, especially in the middle school level, we could teach those courses on how to understand yourself, especially the sixth grade, the year. Okay, now you're transitioning. Now you're going to have to be in control of your own learning, your own scheduling. And then as they get into high school, and then we'll also take career development, what are you interested in? And so as they enter high school, they'll have a better idea of what their true trajectory should be or what they want it to be. And once they feel that they have it under control, just practically speaking, I would think they'd want to come to school more.
So you could reiterate to all of us, as we look at next year, what specific, in an ideal world, resources would you think are necessary for a stronger secondary program?
Plug really quick. So recall again with the consolidations, the GRT positions were ones we were holding on to.
Right.
And Ms. Stead and I have talked, she's had the same plea with me about increasing our secondary, and we've discussed it for a couple of years. So that's one of the thoughts, is how do we increase secondary with those positions?
Okay.
I was just going to say the same thing. So thank you, Dr. Cole.
Okay.
So
Great.
we ideally, because we've already have the two positions, and I'm able to now give more support for those K-8 schools, or those middle schools now can have and so with the considered consolidation, and we are thankful that we're not losing those positions, we can add more support, especially at our middle school. They could actually teach a course to our gifted students, even if they're there. It's impossible if they're full-time, but if they're there, they can be there, even if not teaching a course, just to meet with more kids one-on-one, to have that more individual support, to help guide them to say, no, you're still gifted. It's just that, now you need to take ownership. It's that autonomous learner model. so
Well, thank
that
you.
would be ideal.
Thank you.
Not a question, but a comment. This is kind of to Dr. Rose. It's so disheartening every time something comes up about our students' outcome, them being successful. It's always around staffing. We need to get on top of that. 'Cause as she was saying, if she had more, whatever she needed, maybe we could have more kids that's going to be diagnosed as being gifted. That's on special ed, that's anything we have in our schools at this moment. We have to get some staff right around here. We really do. Because if we don't, we're not going to move no further. We can't. So I just want to say thank you.
Else? Well, thank you, Ms. Day. School board members, we're going to move down to 3.01, future agenda items. I emailed out the school board future agenda items chart yesterday to the full board, your agenda items, and kind of give you a status on where they are in the scheme of things as far as when they will appear on the agenda. So you have that, and I will continue to update as we continue to add to it and everything. So at this time, is there anyone who would like to share any future agenda items? Okay, well, yes.
Just a couple, questions, if I may. So the chain of command or communication policy is expected to be ready.
Our target is to be able to bring that even to our board retreat. So,
Okay, so
yeah,
next month, okay.
yeah, and, review it, talk about it, talk about the PD, how we would implement it, et cetera.
And I asked that because I thought we did great work at our governance training last month. Yeah.
Yes,
It's June. And there was one piece around that was kind of tentative based on that, but I don't want us to get
Oh, no,
through another
we-
few
we-
months.
yeah.
Yeah, that, I just wanted to put that on.
Already, yeah.
Yep. that
Yeah, and we were in an internal meeting yesterday, we reviewed progress and so forth, and we're definitely making progress. And so, yeah, our target is by the time we come together for our retreat, we can start to, it won't be at a starting point, it'll be at a place where, it has some polish to it, and we can still look at it and talk about it and maybe make some changes, but we will be ready to almost recommend language by that point.
Okay. And in the meantime, I just wanted to get our board norms and protocols just on the agenda for approval.
That's
and
on there
that's-
too,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So that was the only reason I was asking about that, because that was the piece
That was
in
part
that,
of- yeah.
And then the only thing, and I have raised this, and I know Ms. Lauder has raised this too around disciplinary practices, but on a holistic level, we really need to look at our alternative education program and review that. And if there's any, as it comes up, I talked about it in the equity report, it comes up, but if there's some way to incorporate a review of our whole alternative education program to include, the disciplinary data that was requested, as long as what our practices are around trauma-informed and restorative discipline. Like, I think we need to really get a handle on what our district is doing or needs help with, so that, I think we need a good picture of what our alternative education looks like, and also what we are offering our students at Madison, especially now that we are requiring attendance there. And so I think we're going to get into, take a look at that soon, so.
I think Adele had her hand up before me.
Sorry, Dr.
To continue with what Ms. Basine just said, in particular, it has been practice that our specialty students, so say they are in alternative setting, they do not have access to their curriculum, and we need to change that too.
Yeah, and that would be part of, the review, because I agree. We hear that too. Things come up oftentimes in our hearings that make us, that enlighten us on what is not offered, and we need to look at
That's
that.
one thing. Several times.
I'd also like to understand how, as a district, we are addressing bullying. I get a lot of feedback that parents are reporting, well, my kid was bullied, and the recommendation was for my kid to go virtual or go homebound, and not really addressing, I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
And not really addressing the bullying issue. And we receive a lot of emails. I don't know if everybody's getting the same emails about bullying. And it doesn't seem that there's one way or one standardized method of addressing it. And then we're not, back to the communication thing, we're not getting feedback that it's been resolved. I mean, not getting into the nitty-gritty, but it appears that bullying is increasing in our schools, and I want to make sure that, as a board, that we're making sure that we make sure those things are addressed and that they're handled in a standardized manner.
Yeah, I think that, one, it's noted, and we need to report back on it because it's being requested. And when we do, let's also make sure that when we talk about it, we have to look at information and data and what is done and what's not done, because at times it's what I notice, especially as it relates to some of our, complaints we're experiencing. A narrative is created which can or cannot be accurate, right? And so we need to be able to talk about practices, and then potentially what that would relate to is policy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So especially when it comes to bullying and harassment, definitely the leverage for the board is policy on that. So that's what I think that what we do is we talk about practice and impact and data, and then focus on policy, because otherwise it can be like there's these blanketed practices that are not happening, which sometimes is not necessarily accurate, but policy, right, creates our guardrails that allows us as leaders to implement effectively. So,
Yeah, and no, I agree, and I also believe that, policies to be implemented, but there also needs to be accountability to make sure those policies are implemented at the school level, because the narrative could or could not be accurate.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that some of the narrative that we're getting is inaccurate information.
yes.
But also being accountable, making sure that we're accountable as a district, that we are handling it. Because, we know that safety, physical and emotional safety correlates greatly to outcomes. And if kids aren't safe, they're not coming to school, so there's more absenteeism that's happening. And so I just think it's something that we need to make sure that we are on top of.
I agree. And I'll extend that, I'll extend that to our employees as well.
Yeah.
Everyone should come to work, and you all hear me say this all the time. No one, I see this work as a calling for me anyway. And I just don't believe anyone should have to come to work with a knot in their stomach for whatever reason, right? So I'll extend that to our employees as well.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to move down to 3.02, motion to go into closed session. May I have a motion to go into closed session?
I move that we go
Go ahead. You beat me to it. Speedy.
that we go into closed session.
Dr. Martin, may I have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Ms. Slaughter. Any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Tanner, please read the motion.
Yes. Move that the members of the School Board of the City of Norfolk go into a closed meeting for the purposes which are set out in subsection A of Section 2.2-3711 of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act as amended for discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for employment or of assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining, or resignation of specific officers, appointees, or employees of the school board pursuant to subsection 2.2-3711A1 of the Act. The subject covered by this exemption is the discussion of the assignment of specific officers, appointees, or employees in connection with a general reorganization of the central administrative structure of the division, consultation with legal counsel regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by counsel pursuant to subsection 2.2-3711A8 of the Act. The subject covered by this exemption is consultation in connection with the matters set above in subsection A of this motion. Basine?
Aye.
I'm sorry, there's another phrase to that, but only to assist the board in writing its decision in the grievance after the board has made and publicly announced its decision, as authorized by subsection E of section 22.1.
That part.
With that addition, Ms. Basine.
With that addition, aye.
Basine, okay. DeCalagero?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye.
Paulson?
Aye.
Slaughter?
Aye.
Thomas? Buffalo?
Aye.